Okay, so let's look at double negatives. So two negatives make a positive. So negative and a negative equals a positive in English. Okay, so the negative words cancel each other out. Yeah. So Tom couldn't have none of the food. Double negative. No. So could not, should not, must not, can't, won't. Negative words. So can't, won't, should not, could not. All negatives. So Tom could not have none of the food. He can't have any of the food. Tom could have none of the food. So positive, could, and none, negative. Makes sense. Makes sense. So Tom could have none of the food. He wasn't allowed any food. He was not allowed any food. No. No. So a positive and a negative. Okay. But a negative and a positive. Tom couldn't have any food. He can eat any food he likes, but he can't eat that one. What's the sentence? He couldn't have any food. He couldn't have any food. He has to make a choice between these instead. He could not have any food. Instead, he has a choice of these things, maybe 4 instead of, say, 10. So it's a choice. So you want to be careful using these kind of modal verbs when making sentences. Avoiding double negatives, Tom could not have none of the food. So none and could not are negative. None. So by using double negatives, it actually means the opposite. It means generally the inverse. Couldn't have none of the food, so he can have any of the food. He couldn't have none of these, but really what you're saying is he can have any of those. He can have any of those. So he could have any of these. Could have any of these. Any of these, but none of them. You can't have any of them. Yes. So a lot of people tend to make this mistake with things like by saying you can't not say that. You can't not say that. So what's happening here is saying you can't not say that. So what they're actually saying is you can say that. You can't not say that. So if we look at not say that, it's don't say that. Don't go there. Don't do this. But then he's saying no, not do this. It's the opposite. So you can do this because it's don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that, but don't say that. So it's the opposite. So a simpler way is saying you can say that. You can eat any food. So it can be a bit confusing at times. But this is why I say, as a rule of thumb, use as fewer words as possible to get your message across, and clarity above being clever. Clarity being above clever. Be clear in what you want and have to say. Be clear. Try to avoid using these can'ts and woulds and shoulds and coulds. Be clear. Say what you can and can't instead. Don't make things complicated unnecessarily. He can't not do this. He shouldn't do that unless he could, unless he can't, and then this. Like, no. Keep it simple. Avoid double negatives. How cool is that, Language Explorers? Let's keep exploring.